Ever felt that invisible weight? That cold dread when you know you're about to face something unfair, just because of who you are, because of your skin? Today we're diving deep into a story that cuts right to the heart of that feeling. It's about a black woman, a seasoned leader, ready to make a difference, but her first day as the new chief of police started not in an office, but on the side of a highway, in a standoff that proved the quietest presence holds the most power. This isn't just a story, it's a testament to anyone who's ever been doubted or told they don't belong. The sun was just a rumor on the horizon, painting the pre-dawn sky over Riverside Heights in faint streaks of rose and gold. Here in the American South, the ancient oak trees, draped in Spanish moss, stood sentinel, their branches forming solemn arches over quiet streets. A gentle hum filled the air, the distant whisper of a city slowly stirring to life. But for Chief Alana Reed, the silence in her modest sedan felt heavier than any morning commute. This wasn't just another workday, this was day one, her first day as the new chief of police for Riverside Heights. It was a title she'd fought for, a culmination of decades spent proving herself in departments that often felt less like organizations and more like fortresses, especially to a black woman trying to climb the ranks. Riverside Heights, a city with a complicated history and a police force long shadowed by complaints of bias against its minority citizens, was a challenge unlike any she'd faced. She gripped the steering wheel, the cool leather a familiar comfort, but a knot of unease tightened in her stomach. This should have been a triumph, a moment of pure celebration. Instead, it felt like she was driving straight into a subtle but undeniable war zone. Alana remembered the thinly veiled skepticism in the local news reports about her appointment, the almost imperceptible shifts in tone from some veteran officers during her introductory calls. She wasn't naive. She knew some of them resented her, saw her as an outsider, a symbol of change they hadn't asked for. She'd spent her career navigating systems that at their core sometimes felt built to keep her and others like her out. She was prepared for resistance, for bureaucracy, for the quiet battles behind closed doors. She just hadn't expected the first one to start before she even reached her office. As Alana approached the city limits, her mind already mapping out her first department meeting, the sharp, sudden flash of blue and red lights exploded in her rear-view mirror. Her heart skipped a beat, then settled into a steady, almost weary rhythm. It was a standard patrol car, its siren briefly chirping before falling silent. Instinctively she pulled over, the tires crunching softly on the shoulder. She knew, with a certainty born of long experience, that this wasn't just a random stop. This was something else entirely. You know, it's funny how a uniform, a badge, can instantly shift the dynamic in any interaction. For some, it's a symbol of safety. For others, it's an immediate signal of scrutiny. And when you're a black woman in America, that scrutiny often carries an invisible weight, a prejudgment based on outdated assumptions. Alana had lived this. She understood that moment where an officer pulls you over and suddenly you're not just a driver, you're a target in an unseen game of power. It's a common mistake assuming the vehicle, the neighborhood, or the person behind the wheel tells you everything you need to know. It's an easy trap to fall into for those in authority, mistaking superficial cues for hard facts and letting unconscious bias dictate their approach. Alana had learned to navigate this landscape with calm and dignity, a quiet defiance that spoke louder than any shouted protest. But even for her, on this monumental first day, the encounter felt like a stark, unsettling welcome to Riverside Heights. The two officers emerged from their patrol car, their figures silhouetted against the nascent light of dawn. Officer Barnes, a broad-shouldered man in his mid-40s, led the way, his stride deliberate, almost a practiced swagger. His younger partner, Officer Miller, trailed a step behind, his face tight with a suspicion that bordered on eagerness. Alana lowered her window, the hum of the electric motor a soft counterpoint to the rapid thud of her own pulse. She met Barnes's gaze, her eyes steady, unwavering, as he leaned in slightly, his eyes doing a quick, dismissive scan of her modest sedan before finally settling on her face. "License and registration," he stated flatly, his voice carrying an air of authority that felt just a bit too practiced, a shade too heavy for a simple traffic stop. Alana reached into her glove compartment, her movements precise, unhurried. She had learned long ago that in situations like this, Silence was often the best strategy, a shield against provocation, a way to control the only thing she could, her own reaction. As she handed over the documents, Barnes's eyes narrowed slightly, but he said nothing. It was Officer Miller who couldn't restrain himself. "What brings you out here?" he asked, his tone edged with a suspicion that felt more like judgment. "This area isn't exactly safe, if you know what I mean." The unspoken implication hung heavy in the air, a familiar, stale prejudice. "You don't belong here." "What are you doing in a nice neighborhood at this hour?" Alana's stomach churned, a familiar wave of weariness washing over her, but her composure remained absolute. She had faced this kind of casual disrespect countless times in her career, in her life. She knew the game they were playing. "I'm on my way to work," she responded calmly, her voice even, revealing nothing. Miller pressed, leaning in a little closer now, a faint smirk playing on his lips, as if he already had all the answers, already knew her story. And where exactly would that be? Alana hesitated for a moment, a whirlwind of calculations spinning in her mind. She could end this charade right then and there. She could pull out her badge, reveal her position, and watch their smug expressions crumble. But something, a deeper instinct, told her to hold back. This wasn't just about a traffic stop anymore. This was a test. A subtle flex of authority designed to intimidate, and she didn't want to start her first day as chief by igniting a firestorm with the very officers she was now poised to lead. "You'll find out soon enough," she responded, her gaze locking with Miller's. There was no anger in her voice, but a clear, undeniable steel that communicated she wasn't intimidated. Barnes, sensing the delicate balance shifting, stepped in, adding his own veiled threat. "Let's not make this difficult, ma'am. We can take this further, if need be." There it was. The thinly disguised menace, the subtle reminder of their perceived power, the classic escalate or comply trap. Alana felt her patience thinning. She had endured this kind of treatment for years. The disrespect, the condescension, the assumptions based on nothing but the color of her skin. She had fought too hard, climbed too high, to let this slide. This wasn't just a random stop. It was a microcosm of a larger issue. This kind of casual, unchecked authority, often fueled by implicit biases, chips away at trust, one stop, one question, one sneering remark at a time. It's the microaggression of power, where seemingly minor slights accumulate into a mountain of injustice for those on the receiving end. The officers, blinded by their own assumptions and a sense of territorial ownership over their safe area, were failing to see the individual before them. They were engaging in a game of power, but what they didn't realize was that the rules of that game were about to be rewritten, and the player they thought they were dominating was about to take control of the entire board. The tension in the car was palpable, the unspoken challenge hanging heavy in the cool morning air, setting the stage for a revelation neither officer was prepared for. Alana felt it, that familiar tightening in her chest, the subtle build of indignation that had fueled so many of her battles. She had endured this kind of treatment for years, the veiled questions, the condescending tones, the assumptions based on nothing but the color of her skin. She had fought too hard, climbed too high, broken too many barriers to let this slide. Not on her first day. She took a deep, steadying breath, a quiet gathering of resolve. It was time. "It won't be necessary," she stated firmly, her voice unwavering, a clear bell cutting through the morning stillness. "I'm Chief Alana Reed, and I suggest you rethink how you're handling this situation." The shift in the air was palpable. Officer Barnes, whose face had been a mask of ingrained authority, froze, his brows furrowed in confusion. Then realization hit him like a physical blow, stripping away his practiced composure. Officer Miller's smug expression vanished completely, replaced with wide-eyed shock and a flicker of outright panic. His mouth opened slightly, like a fish out of water. "You're the chief?" Barnes stammered, utterly caught off guard, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Alana confirmed, her voice now carrying the full, resonant weight of her new position. There was no triumph, no gloating, just unyielding authority. "And I'd like to know why exactly I was stopped, and why this line of questioning is even happening." For a moment, neither officer spoke. Miller fumbled for words, a pathetic string of uhs and "well, sir" caught in his throat. The damage was done. The power dynamic, which they had so carelessly manipulated just moments before, had irrevocably shifted. Barnes, struggling to regain any semblance of composure, cleared his throat, mumbling about a misunderstanding. Alana didn't let him finish. "No, this isn't a misunderstanding," she interrupted, her tone sharp, cutting through his weak excuse. Her eyes, steady and unwavering, locked onto theirs. "This is exactly the problem. You stop people like me without cause, make assumptions, and try to flex your authority because you think you can get away with it." Barnes opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. He knew she was right. Alana's calm, unflinching demeanor only made their earlier behavior look worse, exposing the casual prejudice that underpinned their actions. "You see," she continued, her voice measured but with an undeniable edge, "it's officers like you who make people distrust the system. It's officers like you who create the very divide we're trying to heal. And it's people like me who are here to change that." Both officers stood in stunned silence, their faces drained of color. Alana could feel the immense weight of the moment sinking in. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had been unjustly stopped, questioned and harassed because they didn't fit someone's narrow idea of who belonged in certain spaces. It was about exposing the illusion of control that some in authority wield, believing their badge grants them license to operate outside accountability. They mistook their position for power, failing to grasp that true power comes from integrity, from service, and from earning the trust of the community you swore to protect. When Barnes and Miller pulled Alana over, they thought they were in control, but they were about to learn a profound lesson, that true power isn't about arbitrary authority, but about the profound, unyielding authority of character and purpose. The game they were playing was over, and Alana Reed had just taken command. The silence in the Riverside Heights thoroughfare was profound, broken only by the chirping of distant birds. Officer Barnes and Officer Miller stood frozen, their faces drained of color, their earlier swagger utterly evaporated. Alana could feel the immense weight of the moment settling between them, not just the awkwardness of a caught lie, but the crushing burden of systemic truth. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had been unjustly stopped, questioned, or harassed, simply because they didn't fit someone's narrow idea of who belonged in certain spaces. It was about the countless stories that never made headlines, the daily indignities that eroded trust between a community and its protectors. Alana pushed open her car door, stepping out and standing tall. Her presence, now fully revealed in her new authority, filled the space. There was no anger in her voice, but an unflinching clarity that left no room for doubt. "You'll be reporting to me personally for the next few weeks," she stated, her words like precise cuts. "I'll be reviewing every traffic stop you make, and I suggest you think long and hard about how you handle yourselves from now on." Officer Barnes finally found his voice, a pathetic stammer of, We didn't mean any disrespect, Chief. It won't happen again." Alana simply nodded. She knew his words were empty, a reflex born of fear. It would happen again, perhaps not with these two, but with others, and that was precisely why she was here. Later that day, the air in the main briefing room at the Riverside Heights Police Department was thick, not with cigarette smoke or stale coffee, but with an almost palpable tension. Every officer was present, their faces a mix of curiosity, resentment, and guarded respect. Alana stood at the podium, her presence commanding the attention of everyone present, her uniform a stark reminder of the rank she now held. She began by recounting the events of that morning, leaving no detail unspoken, her voice steady, even. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," she began, her gaze sweeping across the room, meeting every eye she could. "But I am here to make it clear that this kind of behavior stops now. Every officer in this department will be held accountable for how they treat the citizens of Riverside Heights, regardless of their race, gender, or background." A murmur of unease swept through the room. Some officers shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting away. Others, a few quiet nods here and there, met her gaze with a flicker of understanding. Alana could tell who was ready to stand with her and who wasn't. But that didn't matter. She was ready for the challenge. This wasn't just about setting new rules. It was about confronting deeply ingrained institutional bias. It's easy to dismiss bad apples, but systemic issues run far deeper than individual actions. They are woven into the very fabric of an organization through unconscious assumptions, unchallenged practices, and a culture that, intentionally or not, enables certain behaviors. Alana wasn't merely imposing new policies. She was challenging a mindset. She was asking them to look inward, to recognize that the badge, while granting authority, also demanded an unshakable commitment to empathy and fairness. This took immense courage, especially for a new leader entering a resistant environment. Her unspoken mandate was clear. Reform wouldn't just be mandated, it would be lived. "This is your chance," Alana continued, her voice rising slightly, infused with a quiet power, "to prove that you are the kind of officers who serve with integrity. But know this, I will not tolerate bias, I will not tolerate disrespect, and I will not tolerate anyone who thinks they are above the law." Her words echoed in the silent room, a stark dividing line drawn in the sand. This wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. The department's reckoning had begun, and the long, arduous journey toward true justice had just taken its first, unwavering step. Word of Chief Alana Reed's extraordinary encounter spread like wildfire through Riverside Heights. For many, particularly within the black community, it was a seismic event, a sudden tremor of hope in a landscape long riddled with distrust. Finally, someone understood. Someone was acting. Whispers in barbershops and church halls turned into murmurs of cautious optimism, a sense that perhaps, just perhaps, change was truly coming. The media caught wind of the story, and almost overnight, Alana became an reluctant symbol, a figure of integrity, a beacon for reform, a woman unafraid to stand up to injustice where it was most deeply entrenched. But Alana knew, with a certainty forged in fire, that this was only the beginning. The road ahead was long, steep, and fraught with internal resistance. Every stop, every encounter, every decision she made would be scrutinized, not just by the public, but by those within her own ranks who preferred the old ways, who resented the disruption of their comfortable biases. The fight for justice, she knew, was far from over. Her purpose, however, was unyielding. It was rooted in something far deeper than a badge or a title. It was rooted in memory. She remembered her own grandfather, a quiet, dignified man, pulled over simply for driving too nice a car in a neighborhood where he supposedly didn't belong. She remembered the look in his eyes. Not fear, but a profound weariness, a resignation to a world that consistently questioned his right to exist freely. That memory, that quiet indignity, had solidified Alana's resolve years ago. She wouldn't just complain from the outside, she would enter the system, climb its walls, and change it from within. That quiet incident, from her youth, had become the fuel for her lifelong mission, transforming personal hurt into public service. This commitment wasn't just about winning a single battle, like the one on the roadside that morning. It was about an ongoing war against ingrained prejudice. The true victory wasn't the officer's stunned silence. It was Alana's unwavering commitment to changing the entire system. It's a powerful lesson for all of us, especially for those who have been marginalized or hurt. Real change isn't a single explosive event. It's the relentless, courageous act of persistence. It's showing up, day after day, confronting discomfort and rebuilding trust, brick by painstaking brick. Alana Reed wasn't just here to police Riverside Heights. She was here to heal it, to transform its wounds into strength. Her resilience, her quiet power, became a testament to the fact that individual struggles, when met with unwavering purpose, contribute to a larger, unstoppable movement. In that moment, driving away from those two humbled officers and later standing before her department, Alana knew one thing for certain. She was exactly where she needed to be. The fight for justice would be long, but her spirit, forged in fire and fueled by an enduring purpose, was unbreakable. If Alana Reed's story resonated with you, if it ignited a spark of hope or reminded you of your own quiet battles, then hit that like button right now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss more powerful stories of resilience and justice. And most importantly, share this video. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their voice, their presence, and their unwavering spirit can truly make a difference in a world yearning for change. Let's stand together, amplify these stories, and continue to build a future where every single person is seen, respected, and treated with the dignity they deserve.